Welcome into the Sources A podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball podcast on the KSR Podcast Network, presented by Club Blue. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. I am your host, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very excited to be joined by Zach Gagan.
Nope, you got it wrong. You never do it right, but it is impossible.
On
I always
my
do it wrong too.
on my side, is on my end. This is pointed at you,
Oh, you're
That's
you're
funny.
the other way. Yeah,
and
Yeah,
then
it's the opposite.
this way is Steven. I don't
I mean,
care.
I can be Steven today. I can go Steven peak mode, my new favorite.
What the hell is
yeah.
going on? That
Yeah,
was the
it's my
worst
new-
call I've ever seen in my life.
It's
Oh,
my
you should've
new
saw
my
me
new
last
favorite
night.
internet bit.
So Zach, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great. Running on little sleep today, but I feel like we all are after what was a very long evening. Have we actually checked up on our good friend Adam Stratton, and do we know for sure if he slept
That's-
in the airport or not? Should we?
Yeah,
a
I'm
good
gonna send him a
point on him.
message.
Yeah, send him a message. Get the lowdown on where Adam Stratton slept last night and for how long, because I am curious about that. Hopefully, he's already back in Phoenix, back in home. But
We did get cooked. It wasn't anybody's fault. Like, it was by choice. But like, there were a lot of people that were very angry at just KSR and On3 in the comments saying, "How dare you let this man sleep in his car or in
I
the
had nothing to do
airport?"
with it.
It's like, I'm pretty sure he wanted to, and I was like, I'll get you a $100 hotel room, buddy. Like it's fine.
yeah,
But I think he wanted to, and
yeah. If he wanted to get a hotel, he would have. So I don't. I think that was all personal choices for Mr. Stratton. But he did some great coverage. So I love when he's always on site. He has a good perspective.
funny what happens when you can go live on the scene and like show people in real time what that look like. Wouldn't that be fun? Like, wouldn't that be a cool concept? I don't know what that would personally feel like, but I enjoyed seeing it from somebody else's view when they are afforded that type of access. So, Stephen, how
I
are you?
prefer the cold. I prefer
Ooh.
the cold and the weather.
Yeah, it builds
Personally.
it builds character in the wicked winter months. Stephen, how are you feeling? Because I'm sure last night was quite the range of emotions for you, buddy.
It was the first game I got to watch with my dad. And
God.
it was a lot.
Two peaks in one.
It was a lot of yelling.
Two
the
peaks,
dog
one house.
I got video of my parents' dog during the game, and I feel bad for Lucky because he's just standing there, just so tense. He won't move. Like he just like looks. He's like looking at my dad. My dad's freaking out, and the dog must think we're just insane because we're just yelling at nothing. Nothing's happening, and
So
they're
they
just
have
yelling.
eyes and ears, right? They
Yeah. Just
These
an
dogs
insane-
think that we're just insane people. Well,
Dog's like, bro.
You people are crazy, as a former coach might have said. That was just. I think really it was like kind of an unenjoyable experience up until like the game was over. Like it just it wasn't pretty. Just I had a wide range of emotions throughout that game, and when it ended, I didn't even like really celebrate. I just kind of set like I thought Doug Shouse is going to the monitor. Nothing really good seems to happen when that happens. So I was nervous that we're gonna get like a stupid technical foul and Isaac Humphries like situation. So it was like a delayed reaction to the win.
Zach, 83-82. It was one where, if you were at home, you didn't get to watch the game until the 6:44 mark in the first half. That sucked. SEC Network, get your crap together. I'm tired of watching games that are going to inevitably be 2 hours and 30 minutes plus, and sit there and pretend like, oh, well, this is going to be the game that's going to only be 2 hours. We're not going to have any monitor reviews. We're not going to have any stupid late timeouts to drag on a game. The last 3 minutes, Zach, were 45 minutes of real time. 3 minutes of game time translates to 45 minutes for the Vanderbilt Texas A&M game before us. I was losing my mind watching it on my stupid phone screen, catching up, getting the stat broadcast telling me what was happening in real time. Where it was like watching ESPN's, like when you're watching a football game on the ESPN gameplay or whatever, where it's like watching the little mini football in the air going across. It's like, this is 2025. I don't need to be watching games this way. I hated that experience of the first half, and somehow the second half was less enjoyable than that.
Well, I mean, I was following the whole situation with everyone getting upset, but all I did was click my remote. I went over to ESPN Plus, loaded the game up, and I had it on from the moment it started. So I understand that, yeah, I guess if you don't have ESPN Plus, it was probably a pain to watch because then you had to literally wait for that what'd you say it was, Jack? The final 3 minutes took 42 minutes
45
or something
minutes.
like
Yep.
that?
Yep.
Just, I mean, and for two teams that people could just not care less or couldn't care less about even more. I mean, you've got Vanderbilt and Texas A&M, not exactly must-watch basketball TV. So definitely interesting that it just let it go on that long. But I think I said it in the rapid reaction last night. Just there was too many reviews of basketball. That's just what it all comes down to. I don't know. I mean, this is probably a Stephen Peak video incoming next year whenever this becomes his like thing that he's hating the most. But all these games are taking forever this year. I don't know what the deal is. Like, is it just me? Am I just noticing it more? It feels like all these SEC games are taking well over 2 hours. Like I think it was one UK had a game recently, maybe the Vandy game, where it took like an hour and 58 minutes, and everyone was like, "Whoa."
Like,
That was
we're
the quickest game of the whole season.
wins the second
So
half.
yeah, so and I don't know how long
exactly.
the game last night ended or took, but yeah, definitely. You know, we almost had the situation again with more reviews with zeros on the clock, where it was like, man, and I still don't know. And I did like some light research. I mean, it's kind of hard to find the actual rules on or like a full rule book online for NCAA college basketball, but I'm pretty sure that as long as the referees or maybe like the teams themselves are still on the floor, you can call technical fouls even if the game is
Mhm.
over. So I think if I don't know why exactly they were going to the monitor. I think Porter Moser said last night that they went to the monitor to see if Brandon Garrison should have gotten a tech right there. He said Brandon Garrison, but it should be Brandon Garrison and Jalen Moore because those were the two guys that were obviously jawing with each other right there at the very end. So obviously, I didn't see enough to either within the rules or whatever parameters that they have set around them. I guess they couldn't call a technical foul, and thank God they didn't because like Steven was saying, he sent a video of him and his dad watching the game last night, and they didn't really know how to react to the ending. Like it almost felt like it was kind of like not as like a big of a shock because you're at the end, you're like, we don't know what's going on because there's zeros on the clock, and you've got Doug Shows at the monitor, and Brandon Garrison did kind of pop over there, and John in the face of Jalen Moore, and those two were going back and forth. But yeah,
If
very
they called
just
it technical, would that have been like offsetting or like they call it double technicals, or would both teams have gotten free throws? How would that have worked?
They probably would have just done like an offsetting technical thing, and maybe that's why they didn't call it because at that point it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't really know all the in-depth rules on it. I guess I'll have to buy the damn rule book on NCAA's website or whatever it is because I think you have to actually pay for it to read the rules.
Let's try to have Doug Shows
How
on
do
the
they do
show.
that?
Don't think he would like that. Yeah, it would have been fascinating to like just watch a free throw contest to end the game. Like we're
Oh my
hey, we're gonna just have to call this a no contest. And we'll let fate decide. Whoever can, whoever misses the first free throw loses the game. Like that feels like a very Doug Shousey thing. And, like seeing his history unfold before his eyes and be like, oh man, this is my moment. This is my time to shine. If there was ever a time for history, it's gonna be a Doug Shows game. Damn it! And it was one of those deals, Steven, that watching it in real time, it just felt like Kentucky a loss was inevitable. Like every time Kentucky, the door opened for a win or like, they leading by as many as 7 in the second half, you were like, okay, just take care of business. You can turn this into what Texas probably should have been. And then the crumbling happened, but it just kind of felt like Oklahoma was building momentum. They were hitting all the big shots. There was a stretch in that second half where they went 8 straight minutes without missing a field goal. They went 9 for 9.
Insane.
I think it ended up being 11 for 13 in that extended stretch. Where it's just like, okay, what do you do? Like what? Yes, the defense was problematic, but like, what do you do when they're just throwing anything in? And even your best effort on the other end isn't going to be enough to counter that. I felt really, really, really low when they made their 9th straight field goal and was like, maybe it's just not our day.
Yeah, and then when was it Glenn Taylor Jr., a 25% 3-point shooter, hits the 3-pointer that gives him the lead
Catapulted
out.
that sucker in. I mean,
He didn't even
Hesitated
want to shoot
3
it.
times. Yeah, hesitated
Yes.
multiple times. He's like, all right, screw it. Swish.
I guess.
I thought, when they got down 5 with, 9 minutes or 8 minutes or something like that to go, I kind of thought this is probably going to be another loss. And this one, all the previous losses, I've really given a lot of excuses, like there's injuries, there's all this other stuff going on. It's a tough league, whatever. I was going to be pretty disappointed. Thank God for Otega Oweh, because I would have been feeling pretty low today, because that was a game I thought, come on, you got to beat a 4-10 in conference Oklahoma team. They're not terrible. Oklahoma's not terrible, but and it is on the road. What would have made that worse is that that game carried a lot of significance. I know it did for Oklahoma, but it really did for Kentucky, and our fans care. What made that worse? What would have made that worse is that clearly Oklahoma fans wouldn't care. I bet there's all kinds of Sooner fans who didn't even tune into the game last night.
There are dozens of us. Dozens.
That just would have made it. No, you're fine. That just would have made it worse for me. It's just like, man, you're going to lose to a team are their fans going to wake up the next day and find out, oh, look, we beat Kentucky? Like they're not even really into it. So thank you, Otega Oweh. Saved my mentals for one other day.
We officially have breaking news from none other than Adam Stratton. Turns out my plan, this is his words, not mine. Turns out my plan for sleeping in the car was a bad idea. Airport wasn't much better. Crashed on the plane for the whole 2-hour flight, and now I'm super excited to be back at work. So, Adam Stratton, everyone, he made it back.
Made it home.
Steven, he left on a make. He
did.
He followed tradition. He left on a make. We're going to transition into Otega talk because it's the Otega game. It's one that we're going to remember for a very long time. But before that, quick message from our friends at Club Blue. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. Club Blue was founded by UK fans strictly to support the NIL efforts at the University of Kentucky. Unlike most collectives, 100% of subscriber money, 100% of donor money goes directly to NIL. Club Blue charges no fees. Club Blue subscribers receive some amazing benefits like invitations to special events, meet and greets with UK athletes, signed merchandise, monthly giveaways, ticket giveaways, Club Blue merch, and more. Subscribe today at www.clubbluenil.com. You need to pick which sport you want to support when you sign up. Choose your sport and support with Club Blue. Zach, the Otega Oweh game. It's one that, he was clearly pressing in the first half. He was clearly struggling to get anything going. I don't know if it was I'm returning back to my former school, playing my former coach, playing some former teammates. And it just kind of felt like he was pressing a little bit to get things going, forcing some bad shots, had a couple of bad turnovers. And it kind of felt like we were going to let one turn into two after his worst performance in Tuscaloosa. It was going to be a follow-up to that. And then, for the love of all things good in this world, that dude took over in the second half unlike anything that I have seen in a very, very long time, scoring 21 of the team's final 23 points and 18 straight to close out the game, including the game winner, a running off-balance side hook runner with 6 seconds to go, and then gets the game-winning block. Have you seen anything like that in recent memory? When's the last time you have seen a true in-game takeover the way Otega did last night in Norman?
This guy named LeBron James had his way with the Detroit Pistons all the way back in 2007, and what is still probably the greatest individual fourth quarter performance I've ever seen at an NBA level. At the college level, I think Oweh just did it right there. I mean, like you said, Jack, he was not really himself in that first half. He had 5 points. He was 2 for 7. You could tell that he was like, I'm gonna go try and get mine. Like I'm gonna try and get a couple of quick, easy buckets, get myself rolling against my old team. He had family in town. He's really good friends with Jalen Moore. He knows a bunch of those guys on the roster. Like I think there's ended up being like 5 or 6 players from last year's team. Only like 3 are rotation guys, but he still knows a lot of those guys. He was getting booed. They called him a traitor at one point, which just isn't fair in the NIL era. Like, come on. I mean, unless you're born in that state, I don't think you should be called a traitor at all. It'd be like
up your finances.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get your NIL money up, buddy, because that's the reason he left you. It's funny because Oweh said he's like, yeah, I went to Kentucky so I could be in a better on the bigger stage against better competition. It's in the same conference now as Oklahoma was or is. So, whatever. But yes, struggled
It's
in the
not as
first half.
politically correct to say I went there because it was a massive pay upgrade and it's a better chance
Yeah.
to get to the NBA than being stuck in Norman for another season. Like
And
it was
he's
his
proven them
very
all right.
very polite way of saying what he's not really allowed to say publicly.
Yeah, and he saw that Jeremiah Fears was coming in, and he said, "You know what? Let me go try and be the guy." So he went to Kentucky, obviously, and it's paid off so far. But back to his game, yeah, just really pressing everything early on, and even early in the second half as well. Like he was good on the glass. Like he had 5 rebounds in the first half, so he was playing hard. Just wasn't going well for him. Like just too many missed shots at the rim, which has kind of been his thing all season long, where he's really good at getting to the rim, but sometimes likes to play off 1 foot more often than 2 feet. That's been a big thing that Pope's trying to instill with him. He still hasn't found that 100% balance, which is just going to be hard for him. A guy like him who is kind of his game is just bully ball, and I think that was the best part about the whole game was I think Steven and Brandon and I were talking last night, and Steven was like, I think that might have been a bet like the best game since like Meeks's performance or Monk's performance, stuff like that. And the difference between those games was those were guys, firing up shots from deep. Like Otega Oweh did all this by being bigger and stronger than everyone in front of him and just saying, I'm going to go get these buckets. If you take away, like, I think he ended up having what the last you said he scored the last 18 points, 21 of 23, but he had like the last 9 or 10 straight field goals because I think the only 2 points in the midst of that 21 out of 23 run were 2 free throws from Lamont Butler. So
Yes.
the guy was, and you could tell that he was in takeover mode in that whole second half, and it was really a lot of fun to watch. With about 2 minutes left, I remember sending a text to our little Zoom action group, and I said, "All right, we're about to see a bunch of Otega Oweh. I have no idea how it's about to go. I have no clue because we've seen it all season long where it's kind of like he gets in these situations in clutch spots where he can make bad decisions or he can get too sped up or he dribbles himself into double teams, triple teams, turns the ball over. He didn't really do that last night. He was really good at utilizing that spin move, getting himself into spots where he knows he can make like an easy push, like a push out a 5-footer. Like that's his game. That's where he is the whole time. So I thought that was awesome. He did have a big three, I thought. I don't remember exactly when that was. I know it was in the second half, maybe
Gave
11
Kentucky a
23 to go.
3-point lead.
yeah, so that might have sparked his run of like what's ended up being the string. So that was a really big momentum shot for him. He'd missed like a couple of threes before then, maybe a mid-range jumper. So it really was one of the best individual performances you'll ever see out of a college guy. And especially so in the year 2025, when you see a guy scoring 18 straight points and 23 in the second half, you think, man, he must have shot at least 5 or 6 threes to go in. No, this
Right.
guy he only had 5 free throws too, 3 for 5 from the line. So the guy was literally doing this just by being bigger and stronger than everybody else. And like I said, I was a little worried that he might get himself in a situation where he does one good play, one bad play, because that's kind of been his back and forth all season, but nothing like that in this one. He was determined. I love the smack talk that him and Jalen Moore had up and down for the last like 3 or 4 minutes. Those two guys are clearly really good friends. They were having so much fun out there. It was really cool to see two like high level competitors just playing like elite level basketball. And then for a way to get the block at the end there, like on Jeremiah Fears, after he made that last, I know I'm going on an Oweh rant right now, but it was just so much fun to watch. After he made that last second shot with 6 seconds left and he's chasing down Fears, or before Fears even gets there, you see him like getting his stance and he's like pumping his chest out. Like it's so much fun to watch him because, we see Otega in all these interviews and stuff, and he's not exactly like a loud personality. Like he's very much a quiet guy. So to see him be super fiery and energetic, like that game meant so much to him. So it truly was a unique performance from a guy like Oweh that you just don't see in college basketball these days.
And Steven, when we talk about individual performances and all-time historic lists or whatever, like when Reed goes for 30 in Starkville last year, it's spread across an entire game where, yes, he took over and he got the game winner, but like it was an all-around dominant performance. And I think what makes this one so special is when you go 18 points in the last 8 minutes and 38 seconds, where it truly was it was a quarter of the game that he was the most dominant player in college basketball. Like he picked up the bulk of his scoring. I mean, really in the second half, obviously, but like it was that last quarter of the second half that it was just, hey, Porter Moser talking about it after the game. He was like, I thought we did pretty good things defensively. Like I thought that this was one of our better defensive performances, but Otega was just that good. He was just that dominant. And I think that's why when you talk about the Jody Meeks and the Malik Monks, and you talk about like right from the opening tip, they were just like, hey, you knew it was going to be their game. That's what makes this one pretty special, because he kind of stunk it up early and then kind of found his groove and then was like, whoa, there is nothing we can do to stop this. It was like a tale of two halves, or really like the tale of one quarter out of four that made it really, really special. That the finish, the early adversities made the late finish that much more special.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most impressive performances of a Kentucky basketball player in my lifetime. You mentioned Malik Monk against North Carolina, Jody Meeks against Tennessee and Arkansas. Forget he also put up 45 against Arkansas that year. But this was what made this so impressive, is that other than the open three in transition, every shot was a really tough shot. I mean, the game winner was especially tough, but every other basket too. I mean, I would like it if we could finish some of those and ones. But you guys talked about the first half where Oweh missed 4 layups.
Think of what his numbers would be if he had just converted on those 4 too. Like, I mean,
yeah, and then one of them was a layup that he couldn't decide whether to dunk it or lay it in. That would have put Kentucky, I think, that would have put Kentucky up 11, and then maybe Oklahoma starts to fade a little bit, and Kentucky can kind of maybe, at least I was thinking that was a chance to start to pull away, get some distance between you and Oklahoma. But I think Oklahoma comes down and they score, get an and one, so it's a 5-point swing. It goes from what could have been 19-8 to 17 to 11. And from that point on, it was a ball game. Kentucky might have got it up to 8 in the second half early, but to respond in the second half, to do it in the way that he did it, is to me quite possibly the greatest performance by a single game performance by a Kentucky player in the last 7, 8 years. I mean,
definitely in one half.
Yes, and we're leaving out Lamont Butler going 10 for 10.
That's a good point.
Scoring 33 against Louisville, which was also pretty impressive. So I mean, but Otega has not been exempt from this guy won us a game this year. He's been the most consistent player. He's probably won Kentucky several games, but there has been like the Ansley Almador game, the Lamont Butler game. You have the Otega Oweh game. I mean, there's just sort of been like a guy in a lot of these big wins that has a different guy each time that has made big plays down the stretch that has gotten Kentucky to victory. It's really, I mean, this team, I don't want this season to end. I've really, even with all the ups and downs, I've really enjoyed watching this team. And Otega just adds another special part to the chapter of this season.
I counted up. He tied it 3 separate times. Otega tied the game 3 separate times and then forced 4 different lead changes, including the game winner. So it was just like 7 different moments that like it was hey, we need a big bucket here. And he converted on every single one. I mean, it really was special. Steven talked about just Lamont Butler throwing that one in there and that big time performance. Porter Moser said when this team is healthy, this is a Final Four team, and when you do have that many different weapons that can attack you in such different ways, you can see where an opposing coach would go like, I don't know how you stop these guys. How much of that, seeing Lamont back and complete a game without, any setbacks. Jaxson has a setback, but he plays 12 good minutes in my opinion, and that might be just one of those deals where we got to, see how sustainable that is, and you might just get a good half from him, or try to get a couple good scoring minutes here or there for the rest of the way. But we kind of got our first taste at full strength Kentucky again after several weeks without it. Zach, how does that kind of factor into the long-term picture of what this team can be, knowing Travis Perry, Colin Chandler, Trent Noah stepping up in the meantime the last couple of weeks versus how they're going to be able to contribute with everybody back over the next couple?
Well, I think we saw part of it last night where you had, it's not like Noah, Chandler, and Perry played great basketball the whole game, but you had Travis Perry hit a big 3. You had Trent Noah had he grabbed 3 rebounds in his minutes. Colin Chandler was in the game in the final 90 seconds because Pope knew that he could go out there and play defense. Like he was almost doing a defense for offense thing in the last 2 minutes with some of the substitutions. And I don't think you get those guys having those big moments, whether it's good on ball defense, rebounds, a big 3-pointer. Like, you're not going to have any of those things if you don't have the injury situation over the last however many weeks, which you'd prefer not to have. But now you've got a situation where you are a little bit deeper and you can trust these freshmen a little bit more down the stretch. It's a lot easier for Travis Perry to go out there and play 12 minutes than it is for him to play 32 minutes because he knows, there's a lot less is expected of him. There's a lot less on his shoulders. He can just go out there and play a little bit more. Same for all those guys. So Ainsley Almanor didn't play that much last night, which I thought was a little bit odd, but that's kind of beside the point. But yeah, having Lamont back at this time, I think is perfect. And it scared the hell out of me when I think it was early in the second half when he crashed down. I don't think he crashed on the shoulder, but he definitely like landed on his back or something and popped right back up. And I said, thank God, because
I think that was intentional.
He knew
that was
too.
very.
He knew too.
Yeah.
He said, I can't lay down. I have to, if I get on the ground, I have to pop right back up because not only is the entire fan base going to gasp, but so is the entire coaching staff and probably myself if I sit there and lay on the ground. So he said he was fine. Afterwards, he was talking to Goose Givens on postgame. He said, I feel fine. He said, I had no pain throughout the whole game. He could be lying. I don't care. The fact that he said it is all that I needed to hear because that tells me that guy's not missing any more games the rest of the season unless number 5 for Oklahoma comes up and just punches him in the shoulder, which is what he was trying to do for Amari Williams and Lamont a bunch of different times in that game.
What about when Amari went down?
Yeah, Steven, I was going to ask, did you crap your pants when Amari went down and held his ankle in a like, oh no, I'm out for the year type of way?
Well, Buzz Williams was in the middle of fouling every 2 seconds at that moment, so I didn't actually see it, but I was listening to Tom Leach, and so I was in our KS board and I was asking like, anybody got an update? I need an update because I can't even enjoy this game until we know that Amari's okay. Because it was just like, are you kidding me? We get 2 guys back. And then you lose one, and it's just like the same things from last year. Like if you guys remember, we got a do back. Oh, well, now Trey's hurt. Oh, we got Trey back. Well, now Ugana's hurt. It just kept happening. So it's just like, are you kidding me? Like what is going on? I'm sure he's fine though, right? I mean, like he came back.
Seems like it.
So
Andrew Carr though.
Andrew, there was didn't love that. But
Whatever.
Again, if we've learned anything from this experience, is that Mark Pope is the most hyperbolic man to walk the face of the earth. Like he will tell you, well, Lamont just got shot, and unfortunately, it's I don't.
Right in the left shoulder.
Is he going to survive it? I really don't know. And he's going to play 37 seconds later. You're like, well, all right, whatever. So we do have to kind of not take everything that he says in these press conferences so seriously, and like trying to dig into the tone and like, well, he said it's not a matter of when or if these guys come back. How we've been like, oh no, does that mean that Lamont's going to be out forever? Does that mean Jaxson? They're going to play. Everything's fine. I feel good overall, Zach, seeing these guys. Like we heard from Pope Monday say that we're probably not going to get either of them back to 100% the rest of the way. Like Jaxson, this might just be the new norm for him where he's going to have to play through that wrist injury. He might hit a couple shots. He might go on a cold streak, but he might have it flare up and have to miss the rest of the game or have to ice it and then return late or what. Like this might just be the new norm. I think I'm comfortable with this team as currently constructed. I think they can win games defensively. We need to go back to that whatever was working in that 5-game stretch where they were a number 11 defense nationally overall without Lamont and Jaxson in the game. We got to figure out what worked then and kind of continue that moving forward. But I think, as Porter Moser said, I agree with him. I think this team is capable of making a run if, as currently constructed, even with Andrew Carr 75% or whatever, even if Jaxson Robinson 70, I think they got the dudes.
Yeah, the Jaxson situation. Go ahead, Steven.
I was going to say, do you guys think Jaxson plays against Auburn?
Well, that's what I was going to say. The Jaxson situation feels interesting now because it felt obvious as well with how Otega felt like it was like a personal mission to maybe go out and get some, maybe try and get some easy buckets. It almost felt like it was pre-planned from the jump from Pope to try and get Jaxson Robinson free for a couple of, I think he had four attempts in the first 2 minutes or something, ended up hitting a 3. And then it got himself, he finished with 7 points, 3 for 7 from the field there. So that's just one's a tricky one because, you've got Lamont back. So that's that was like, it felt like that was 75% of the issues was just not having a guy like him on both ends of the floor. You've got him back now. That makes up for just so much, and it just takes a lot of load off the other guys' shoulders, like Travis and Trenton and Colin and those guys. But yeah, so now with Jaxson, do you rush him back? It's a shooting wrist injury that feels like, I know doctor, but that feels like it's probably a finicky injury, and you don't want to just have him go out there and someone rails into him and he messes it up again. So maybe you can afford to keep him out the next couple games and just let that heal as you get into this SEC tournament. But like you were saying, Jack, I am kind of fine with how the team currently is if I know that Andrew Carr is not going to have to do 2 miles on the bike in the middle of the first half, or Amari Williams isn't going to. By the way, that Amari Williams, where he got hurt, it's a damn flop on the
Terrible.
guy.
Oh,
Terrible.
Yeah.
He fell
Terrible.
to the ground, and that was the reason Amari, the flopping is still becoming an issue. And
Wagyu
Kentucky does
B
it as
for
well,
whatever his name is, really
Yeah.
pissed me off. What was his
And
name?
Kentucky does it too. Like Wagyu is actually how they
Yeah.
were saying his last name, but
We don't do
But,
it
like-
well enough, I feel like. I feel like
Well,
you
Colin
have
Chandler
to fall and
tries, and
scream.
yeah, Colin
Yeah.
Chandler tries, but he just doesn't do it right half the time. So we have guys that do it, but and after a while, once you put like that third elbow in or that third shoulder in on the same post up, like you're going to get called for it. But that's not what Amari did there. The guy just fell to the ground. It made him twist his ankle. So that was super annoying. But as the team is right now, like Pope played 11 guys in the first half. That's pretty cool that he has the ability to do that. And one of those guys, there's a 12th guy, Kirk Kreese, is still sitting on the bench. I mean,
Our flop king, by the way. That's where
Yeah,
we're missing
exactly.
our flop goodness.
we can kind of. I'm not even factoring him into the equation at this point. I'm just kind of assuming that he's done. That's not any info. That's just I'm going to assume that this is the team that Kentucky has. But as it currently is, like if you've got Otega Oweh playing at that kind of level, I thought the defense was not great at all, but the metrics still say that they're going up. So I don't know how any of that works, but as long as the numbers say we're going up, I'll sit here and take it. So I think that the trajectory, getting Lamont back at this game, I think was just the perfect timing because now he's got he's got a kind of a feel it out game. Now you can bring him into Auburn. You're playing with house money in that one. No one really expects you to win that game, no matter who's on the roster. And then you can go into, pick up the LSU win, Missouri win, close out the season 3-1 on these last 4 games. And I think you're looking great. So, but that's an ideal scenario. But as we're sitting right now, the injuries are not as nearly a big of a concern as they were 2 weeks ago.
Well, we have the SEC tournament picture is growing more and more clear by the day, and got pretty significant news last night after the dust settled on the wins and the kind of the grand landscape of the SEC. So we'll talk about that real quickly after our message from our friends at Circus Sports Kentucky. The best time of the year is here, and the best app to bet college basketball is Circus Sports Kentucky. It's sports betting the way it should be, with high and transparent betting limits, the lowest holds, and exceptional customer service. It doesn't matter when they take the court, whether it's spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circus Sports is the place to bet college basketball, fun and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime. Download your new bookie today at circusports.com. Must be 18 or older for Kentucky Problem Gambling Services. Call or text 1-800-426-2537. As things stand today, Stephen, I want to get your thoughts as well, because I know you've been watching this very, very carefully. As things stand today, Kentucky is 8th in the current standings, but if you look at the KenPom projections, now number 6 to close things out at 10-8. You have been saying that you want a 9-9 finish. You'll be happy with a 9-9 finish. Well, KenPom now projects a 10-8 finish. That's a good news. The bad news potentially is if you jump up to number 6, that means a potential Thursday night matchup at 10 p.m. Eastern time against none other than John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks. The opener of the SEC tournament. How are you feeling about that?
I need that. I need it. Look, I know we don't want to have them knock this out of the SEC tournament, but John Calipari hasn't won an SEC tournament game in years. So he's won one in the last 4 years.
We got to knock on some wood there.
Oh, I'm knocking on all the wood here. But I know we don't want that. I know that might seem like worst case scenario. Look, they already hurt us once. You can't hurt me again, John Calipari.
You can't break what's already broken.
Yeah. So I would just absolutely love that, because that's the one thing. It's the one game. All the other losses, getting blown out at Mississippi, Texas, Vanderbilt, go through all of them. That's the one. That is the one loss that every day there's a point in my day where I go, why? How did we lose to this team? Now, granted, they're playing better. They're playing better. They had a big lead on Texas last night, of course. They blew it, goes overtime. DJ Wagner, chance to be a hero at the free throw line, clank. And but they did pull it out in overtime. So, yeah, you don't really want to play a Calipari team late in the season, but I would love that. Here's what I want in Nashville, though. No matter what, I have never been to an SEC tournament before. The first time I had a chance to go was 2020, and no games were played by Kentucky. So then I've gone the last 2 years.
Terrible.
I have not seen Kentucky win an SEC tournament game in person. Just give me a win. Like, just give me one. I was going through Bartovic last night, just kind of finishing out the rest of the season, saying that Kentucky, if they only were to beat Oklahoma and LSU to close out the year, and then got one win over Mississippi State, then lost to Auburn, that you're comfortably, it looks like, in that 3 seed. At 3 seed line, according to one source, but that is pretty remarkable. 9-9. If you told me 9-9 8 months ago, I'd be like, man, that's kind of maybe that's disappointing. But what that gets you, being a 3 seed, right where you were at last year, if you can avoid a Jack Golke in the first round, I mean, and you line it up with the 2 seeds there, I have a reason to feel pretty good about Kentucky possibly getting to an Elite Eight. I mean, it's possible. Got to get guys healthy, though.
Zach, let's get your thoughts. So you get Auburn Saturday, you get LSU next week, the midweek senior day matchup, and then you close things out. You'll be joining us. So I'm excited for our first KSR road trip with the gang at Missouri the following Saturday to wrap things up. How do you expect this thing to wrap up, and what is your preferred path in Nashville, where you will also be joining us? Would you welcome a rematch with Arkansas with open arms and getting the higher seed, or would you rather stay at that 8-9 with Mississippi State potentially, because that would set up a potential Friday matchup against Auburn, and at that point it's like, oh, you already won the first one, you're playing with house money at this point. How would you want this thing to unfold?
I'm going back to my just general preseason expectations, where I just wanted to see Kentucky win one SEC tournament game and one NCAA tournament game. So I think that if that ends up being the case, you get your single bye and you take care of whoever's in front of you. And then I don't really care if it's Arkansas or whoever, or if you play Auburn in the second, because eventually, if you want to win the SEC tournament, you're going to have to play Auburn eventually. Like, they're going to be playing on Sunday. So would you rather try and get them out of the way early on Friday, or wait until Sunday if you're Kentucky, if you think you can make it that far? But the SEC tournament, it's I'm not terribly concerned about how it all plays out. I'm almost in my Coach Cal mode right now, where I'm like, let's just get to the NCAA tournament. I want to see what this team can actually do. I just don't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want a situation where they're playing 3 straight games and something, you don't have Jaxson or something, and Amari Williams has to keep playing point guard, and he's fatigued as hell by the end of Saturday night or something, and you've got to drag him down the finish line on Sunday. Like, this will be a situation of, let's just make sure that everyone's getting healthy and they're poised to make a nice run in the NCAA tournament. I think as long as they go 1-2, I think they're pretty much, I wouldn't say locked. I haven't actually done the actual numbers. I know Adam Luckett did something this morning, but I think if they go 1-2, they're pretty much gonna get that single bye, which is really all that they need right now. You don't want to play on a Wednesday or whatever it is. So just beat LSU, and then like I said, the Auburn game is kind of house money stuff, and then maybe if you could sneak out that win at Missouri, I think that would, as long as you pick up one win of these last 3, I'm perfectly fine with however the season ends or how it looks going into the postseason.
So you don't the possibility of getting a 2 seed by if you finish 2-1, whether it's Auburn or Missouri, whatever the case is, if you finish 2-1, win one game in the SEC tournament, 2 preferably, like you have a number 2 seed potentially on the line. Does that add any intrigue for you of like, well, okay, well, maybe I do, run Jaxson a little bit longer. Maybe I run Lamont a little bit longer, kind of push your chips in on winning for the now, hoping that it presents a better path next month? Or do you just say, I care more about getting healthy right now, and you're already in a good enough spot to where it doesn't really matter?
It doesn't matter what seed they are. St. John's is going to be the round of 32 team or the Sweet 16 match, or Louisville. It doesn't matter whether it's a 2, 3, or 4 seed. The pass is going to be tough regardless.
But they don't focus on storylines.
Right. I'm sure they don't. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're gonna play some sort of rival team, whether it's Louisville, Arkansas, or St. John's in the second or third round. So
they're definitely going to be like. Sorry, I was going to say Kentucky's going to be the 3, and then Louisville will be a 6, and Arkansas will be like one of the 11 seeds.
Yeah, and something weird.
Yeah. But I looked at Mississippi State. Their last 3 games of the season to close it out. They got to play. They host LSU, they host Texas, and then they go to Arkansas. If Kentucky goes 1-2, would we still need them to lose? We needed them to lose one of those games, right?
I think you're a game ahead of Mississippi State. UK is. So if UK goes 1-2, Mississippi State goes 3-0. Well, now I'm doing bad math in my head there.
Still have the tiebreaker.
UK would have the tiebreaker over MSU. Yeah. So Ole Miss is the team, I guess, that you want to, because they don't own the tiebreaker there.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so
we're up by a game. So if they go 3-0, we go 1-2. They would have the 8 seed then, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So they have a pretty favorable schedule. Except for, I think Arkansas is the game that they could slip up and lose. So it's not a guarantee. I really don't want to be playing on Wednesday.
That's the one thing you got to avoid, I think.
I would like a shot at I know that to go through Auburn, you'd have to beat them on Friday, but I would just like an opportunity. I think if you play on Wednesday, you're like, we're not going to win this thing. So then you might start, okay, what do we got to do to get everybody healthy? And it's weird because in the press conference to kick off the Mark Pope era, he said, we're going back to winning games in Nashville because you people show up and that matters, or that matters because you people show up like nobody else. And it would be weird to, you play on Wednesday and be like, well, we would like to win some games. But at this point, like winning a game maybe helps you with, a seed line or something, maybe being able to maybe even get a couple wins if you can beat Mississippi State. So it would be nice if you could avoid that. Play on Thursday. Teams win this playing on Thursday all the time. So that becomes a lot more doable. I still would like to see Kentucky win an SEC tournament championship. It's now we are on the longest streak, the most years, I think, without one. So I'd like to end that one as soon as possible. Maybe it doesn't happen this year because it is so tough. But this is like the biggest conference tournament since like 2011 Big East, and ironically that was when Kimba and UConn won 5 straight in 5 days. So I'm excited about it. This is going to be the most. I think this might be one of the most anticipated SEC tournaments of my lifetime.
Zach, is it as simple as winning one? Like, do you think? I personally, maybe I'm a psychopath, but like I've said on the show several times, I think they're going to go down to Nashville and win it. I just do. It feels like a destiny kind of thing. But like, do you think the fan base just does kind of have like what Steven's saying? I'm just tired of going for one game and leaving the next morning. Like I'm tired of that. How far do you think a single win in Nashville would go for this fan base?
Pretty far. Like, yeah. They've had one in SEC tournament win since the COVID years. So you go down there and pick up a good one, especially in this conference or this year's conference. So whatever team you end up playing in that first round is going to be likely a borderline top 25 team, if not a team that's in the top 25. You just don't want to lose the first game is really all it boils down to. Like that would just be kind of a bad look for just everything that we've collectively as the fan base has complained about over the last 4 years, is the lack of winning in the SEC tournament and NCAA tournament. To go down there and drop one against like an Ole Miss or whoever, or Mississippi State, would not be ideal. But if you can win 2 in this, I think that satisfies pretty much every worry that fans were having about the SEC tournament. The NCAA tournament's a whole different story. But if you can go down to Nashville and win it 2 games, you've built a lot of goodwill with the fan base going into the offseason.
because then you're having a weekend in Nashville. It's a weekend. It's not a day trip. It's not a midweek random like, oh hey, the bachelorette party. The only time that worked for our schedule is to go down on a Thursday, and we got to get back for whatever. Like it's a you get a weekend in Nashville, and the fans just haven't gotten that. Like they've put so much of their vacation time and life savings. They're like, hey, I push my vacations are to Nashville to watch Kentucky play, and they haven't gotten to get rewarded for it. So I do think that there's just something to be said about like playing in a game on Saturday, like how far that would go for this fan base. I think winning one would be huge, Steven, but there is something to be said about just getting to that Saturday, Sunday, the magic of like the weekend in Nashville, how far that would go for this fan base.
Yeah, we haven't seen Sunday since 2018, which just is kind of crazy when you think about it. John Calipari did a lot of great things at Kentucky. One of the things that he did on his way out was he left us with a lot of streaks that are broke school records with the amount of gaps we've had. We haven't made a Sweet 16. It's a school record for the longest drought without a Sweet 16, longest drought without an Elite 8. So, yeah, I think winning a couple tournament games outside of Global Jam would be nice. So
hey, we had a damn good time in Toronto. You don't get a gold medal
for that, though.
Yeah, I still. Do they have that trophy anywhere? I would love to see the Global Jam trophy. I haven't seen it yet, but
I have the shirts. I wear the shirts all the time.
You have the shirt. Yeah.
I have several. Yeah. I have several of them. They're fantastic.
So yeah, I mean, yes, it would be huge for the fan base just to experience some victories in single elimination tournaments again. And if you can get to Saturday, you know what Nashville turns into on Friday night. That's the one thing too. If you play on Wednesday, I mean, how many Kentucky fans are able to make that trip midweek and hope to stay all the way to Sunday? So yeah, again, very important that you avoid playing on Wednesday if you want to have a real shot at this. So do you guys think we can win it? I mean, Jack, I know you've said that's been your hot take all year, but at this point, at this juncture, do you guys think Kentucky, assuming they play on Thursday, can win 4 games in 4 days and take that title for the first time since Quade Green was playing point guard at Kentucky?
If it weren't for the injuries kind of over the last however many weeks and months now, like if it was just kind of the same constructed team, and I knew that like all the chemistry levels would be high and everyone would be in a group together, maybe I could see it. But Kentucky's lost twice to Alabama. That's a team I had to play. You had beaten Florida, and we just saw Florida lose to a bad Georgia team. But you got to beat Auburn too. Like it would be very, very, very. Honestly, if you win the SEC tournament,
you don't have to beat all those teams.
Seed.
You only have to beat the teams that are. I mean, so guys, teams can lose. There can be upsets.
You're going to play one of Auburn, Alabama,
you will play
Florida,
Auburn.
Tennessee. You're going to play those teams at some, or 2 of those 4 teams at some point. So, yeah.
Steven, here's my thing. Why that answer is yes. Do you remember the level of investment we felt from John Calipari going into that matchup at Rupp Arena on February 1st, where it was just like, this dude is as prepared for any game all season long. The scout was amazing. The adjustments were as good as we've seen. Like there was a level of, I gotta win this damn game on Coach Cal's side that I think we will see from Mark Pope and this staff going down to Nashville. Like I think they feel the pressure from this fan base for, yes, obviously March Madness, but every team wants to win in March Madness. Like that is something that every down to the low major level all the way up to the Auburns and Dukes and the biggest competitors. There is a level of an investment with this event this year more than ever in Nashville for this Kentucky staff. And I just don't think that we will see that level of preparation and that level of investment for the other top dogs. Like I think that they will be more prepared than anybody else down in Nashville. And yes, I know the injury bug sucks, but I would rather them be where they are right now than they were 2 weeks ago. And knowing that we're still 2 weeks away from that trip, still, assuming we don't have any ridiculous setbacks or whatever again. knocking on wood, I feel good about where things stand right now and knowing how important it's going to be for this staff to make a run. Whether they win it on Sunday or not, I don't know. But like, just to know that they want to make it worthwhile for this fan base. Whereas, like, I didn't get that level of investment from them for the Arkansas game. Like, you just didn't feel like they cared the way we cared about that one. But I do know that they're going to feel that way about winning the big one down in Nashville. That's just my take.
Yeah, I do. I kind of agree with you that, as Mark Pope said, Kentucky fans show up like no other fan base does for that tournament. They're going to want to. I mean, Mark Pope is going to want to deliver some wins in that, especially because he brought it up in his press conference again. So like, he's going to want to deliver on that. If you go down there and you go 0-1, people are like, well, hang on, didn't understanding the assignment and all that stuff, But again, like, it's very possible. I mean, you can draw Mississippi State on Thursday, and they're a team very capable of beating you. So like, it could happen. And it doesn't mean that Kentucky wasn't prepared or that they weren't taking it serious. I always said that Calipari said all of that stuff, but he's not the kind of guy that's like, you know what, I just don't care if I lose. That's not how Cal is. I know that he said, you know what tournament I care about, and but I believe he wanted to win those games.
I hope so.
You are paid to win games.
Exactly.
So you're supposed to try. You're not supposed to just, I don't really care if I win this one, but I'm going to try for this one, even though it seemed like that sometimes. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be. I know. It's Kentucky. We care about NCAA tournament, Final Fours, and we don't hang a banner for anything but Final Fours and championships. But if this team were to go win in Nashville, and even if, gosh, man, I feel like I'm going to get crushed for this. Even if they lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament, I almost, considering how good the SEC is this year, it's like a one-time exception. I wouldn't feel like completely devastated. Like I would almost like, I'd be like, damn, that was a really good year. And then to win that SEC tournament, if you can win that, I mean, that's just, it's a massive prize this year, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Whereas maybe in past years it was, okay, there's really like two teams. Kentucky in 2016, 2016, I think, they didn't play a ranked SEC team until they played Texas A&M in the SEC championship game. So that year it's like, okay, well, I mean, it was really just two teams. This year it's so open that it is, and as people have said, it might be harder. It probably is going to be harder to win 4 games in the SEC tournament than 4 games in the NCAA tournament.
Which is why they're going to win. Which is why they're going to win.
About, yeah, if Kentucky does win the SEC tournament, that probably means they're going to get a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, yeah, good point.
That means you're probably losing to a 15 seed in the first round of your scenario there, Steven. So is that really is that the trade-off you really want?
That would be 3 out of 4 years losing to a double-digit seed, and I don't know how well we'd all handle that. You're right. Okay, all right, fine. Round of 32, losing to a 7 sounds a little bit better, I guess. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, if you win this, that's a storybook ending. I mean, it's kind of like when Kentucky did have a gap in not winning the SEC tournament from 2005 to 2009. They didn't win it. That was the longest gap one of the longest gaps in school history. And then they beat Mississippi State, the tip-in with DeMarcus Cousins sending it to overtime. John Wall smacking Ramon Harris in the face after hitting the big 3. And that sort of felt like that team's championship. They ended up losing in the Elite 8. But that was like Kentucky's back, moment. So, again, if that's something they could pull off this year, man, I think it kind of gives you a storybook ending no matter what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Win in Nashville, go to the Sweet 16, and everybody is pouring confetti on our heads and just having the grandest old time. We're going to start wrapping this thing up, but before that, enjoy the home court advantage with our friends at Monticello Banks in their HELOC special, and use the equity you built in your home to finance special home projects and improvements. Score big with a fantastic introductory rate and attractive closing costs. With 20 locations in 14 counties across Kentucky, we're just around the corner, so hurry in and speak with one of our mortgage lenders about this limited time offer today. Find us on the web at nbcbank.com. Monticello Bank, where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Zach, let's wrap up Auburn predictions. How do we think this weekend is going to go? It's going to be a tough one. They lead college basketball almost like by double with 15 quad one wins. Insane. They're putting together an all-time resume. How do you think that this home, we get them at home, how do you think the home battle against Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers is going to go?
Well, I'm going to be just kind of hoping for the best in that game because I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Auburn isn't some juggernaut essentially this season, which they are. They have one of the, it's probably going to come down to him and Cooper Flag or Jani Broom and Cooper Flag for National Player of the Year. Their collective roster is like point 0.9 years younger than the Oklahoma City Thunder roster.
That's
If
so
you like
stupid.
average up their entire ages, like they're like 23 years old or something like that. Actually, you know what? I saw that on Twitter and it was a graphic, and that could very well be wrong. So never. I'm gonna
No,
look
it's
into
totally
that
true.
afterwards.
Everything you see on Twitter is true for sure.
So kind of scratch that. I'm gonna actually go look up that afterwards and see if that's kind of correct. But they do have a lot of old guys like Chad Baker Mazar or whatever. He's like, and he's 23 in his
27
fifth
years
year.
old.
Janai Broom's in his fifth year. So they've got a bunch of older guys. So I'm not going to be expecting Kentucky to come out and really win that game. What I will say is what I'm very much looking forward to is the Amari Williams versus Janai Broom battle, where you have essentially the two best centers in the SEC going head to head for the first time all season. So I'm very excited for that. That's going to be that's an important game for Amari in terms of beyond that game. Like, hey, do you want to be an NBA draft pick? Do you want to like have a long career playing basketball, in the NBA? You go out there and you make a statement against the National Player of the Year, even if Janai Broom is probably going to be a two-way guy for 2 years in the NBA and then go somewhere else. Like he's probably not a long-term NBA guy, but if you want to make a statement, this is the opportunity to do it. You go out here, you have a great game against the National Player of the Year front runner or one of two front runners there, and really put yourself on the map. And there's gonna be a lot of eyes on this game. So even aside from Amari, like just guys are gonna want to come out and have big games just for their own perception. Hopefully that doesn't turn into an individual sort of ISO situation, but Kentucky really hasn't done that much as of late. Even Oweh's situation last night was standing. So I'm not no expectations for Kentucky to win. Just very excited to see the Amari Williams Janai Broom battle. But I do think it will be a good, close, competitive game. And Rupp Arena is going to be a lot of fun for it. So I am excited for all of that. No
Steven?
game day though.
Steven, how you feeling?
It does feel like a situation where you're playing with a little house money. No one's really expecting you to win. It's not one of the final three games where it's like you have to get a win here. They're very good. Auburn's very good. Watched a lot of their games this year. They're very good. You don't need me to say that. You probably figure it out on your own. But look, on the road, I mean, I'm looking at their schedule here. Go through this real fast. At Texas, they won by 5. At South Carolina, they won by 3, and they very, very easily could have lost that. Now, I know we're going back. That's back in January, but at Georgia,
what they do last night?
They won by 30.
Yes, they beat Ole Miss by 30.
Yeah, so they're playing good ball right now. But they've gone on the road and they've been challenged. I mean, Arkansas. I mean, if Zvonimir doesn't go 0 for 30 from 3, they probably pull that game off. Look, I don't think Kentucky's going to win the game, but how far off are we from the number one team? Playing at home, you should get a favorable whistle. It's supposed to happen. Every home team gets one. Maybe this is the game where
great joke. That's a great.
Maybe this is the game where it happens. Maybe this is the game where it happens, and maybe you get some other guys in foul trouble. And I'm interested to see again. I've been loving to see how this coaching staff is able to move these pieces around. Like you guys said, they played 11 guys in the first half. Let's see what happens. Maybe this is the game Ainsley Almanor comes back and hits some big shots. And
interesting.
Kobe Brea, he's going to get going again at some point. So why not Saturday? And let's just see. I'm excited. When's the last time number one came to Lexington? Was that Tennessee a few years ago?
When Kentucky won.
Where Kentucky did win that game, but just in general, When was the last? Okay, that was the last time.
I think that was the last one.
Okay.
I don't remember, actually.
It doesn't happen all the time, so it should be exciting. That's going to be a great atmosphere, one of the best ones of the year. The crowds at Rupp Arena this year have just been the best that I've seen. I've been covering Kentucky games since 2016. It's been the best that it's been. So we're like 9 years. So that could play a factor. And let's just see. Kentucky's actually done pretty good against Auburn the last few years. So, I would like to get the Bruce Pearl that comes in the post game and he's sad and downtrodden, but he's telling us how awesome Rupp Arena is and
sweaty and crying, and you don't know if you like it or hate it. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually enjoy a lot of Bruce Pearl press conferences because every time I'm watching one, it's after Kentucky beat them. So let's keep that going.
Remember last year at Auburn?
I'll never forget it. That was one of the most
thought you were gonna get something.
We got people here there for a reason. They're gonna
about that.
Do you remember what he said in that press conference about playing zone? He said, "How can other teams prepare for it? We don't even know what the hell we're doing." So,
good point. True.
He had a lot of good lines
lost
on that
their
one.
Next game too.
Yeah, on a buzzer beater.
Oh, God love them. All right, well, this is a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys jumping on with us.
By the way. So,
ooh,
that's right. Yeah,
the Fighting Damian Collinses. Which, by the way, I saw somebody bring this up on Twitter. I think we're seeing a theme here when Otega Oweh gets booed to oblivion in Norman and then has his best game of the year. We see DJ Wagner, Adu Thero, Zvonimir Avicic have their career days after getting booed. Aaron Bradshaw has a career day after getting booed. Guys, shut the hell up. Do not boo Damian Collins on next week. Like, for whatever you do, if you boo Damian Collins, which why would you boo Damian Collins? Like, he's just he's Damian Collins. But please do not, because he's going to go for 30 points and we're going to lose on senior day. And I just can't add anything more to my mental load. So just let's give him a nice little golf clap, cheer him on. Like, hey, Damian, shout out. We're proud of you, bud. Let's just keep it positive and uplifting, and we need that one. That one's a very important win, and everything else will sort itself out. This was a lot of fun. Jack Pilgrim here with, I got to do it the opposite way. Zach Gagan, Stephen Peak. There we go. It looked all wrong on my side. Zach, where can fans find your work?
They can find me, as always, on a website called Kentucky Sports Radio, or you can follow me on Twitter at ZGaganKSR. Gagan is GeoGheGAN, triple G.
You haven't said that in a long time. I've missed that.
I haven't been on in a while to do it. So,
and then the Peakster himself. Where can fans find your work?
Let's see. Right here. At Stephen Peak KSR on Twitter.
This is your work.
The KSR YouTube channel, which if you don't know where to find that, I don't know what to tell you. So
find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Pilgrim KSR. Go subscribe to KSR Plus. Make sure you're subscribed to the Peaksters awesome YouTube channel. We're having a blast over here. And hopefully we can celebrate a big upset win Saturday. That'd be a lot of fun. Be pretty awesome. We will see you either way at Rupp Arena on Saturday. 1 o'clock tip, ABC. Go Cats.